terrible. This occurrence unfolded at my uncle's residence back in 2001. To provide context and elucidate my experience, let me share a bit of background. I was raised in the vibrant city of San Francisco. Upon graduating from high school, I decided to make a significant shift, relocating to a small town where my father's family resided. This town, nestled 3 hours south of San Francisco, boasted a modest population of 70,000. It marked a stark departure from the bustling city life I had known for the preceding 14 years. Upon my arrival, I sought refuge at my uncle's house. Seeking a brief conversation, he gestured for us to gather around a small table adjacent to the kitchen, and as we sat down to talk, I broached the subject of temporarily residing with him and Annie. Expressing my reluctance to live alone in a new town, I explained my plan to attend community college. To my relief, he agreed, assuring me it would be fine. Grateful for his hospitality, I left to gather my essentials. Upon my return, I brought only what I needed: clothes, books, toothbrush, and a handful of CDs. Almost immediately, an eerie sensation enveloped me, hinting at the presence of someone else in the house. Despite the knowledge that it was just my uncle and me at the time, a disconcerting feeling lingered. It resembled the atmosphere at a friend's house party, where individuals meandered about, creating a sense of unease. One day, as my uncle engaged in beadwork at the table, listening to a radio talk show, I decided to join him. Seizing the opportunity, I confided in him about the peculiar vibes I had sensed since my arrival. I shared my unease about feeling the presence of others when only he and I were in the house. To my surprise, my uncle responded with an acknowledgement of his own unexplained experiences in the house. He recounted a night when he, alone in the house, heard drawers and cabinets opening in the kitchen. Investigating, he found them ajar, a sight that unnerved him. This revelation affirmed my own feelings, reassuring me that I wasn't alone in my perceptions. Several months later, I found myself alone in the house as my uncle and aunt were away, and my cousin, his daughter, was at university. Given her absence, I occupied her room one night. As I traversed the pitch-black hallway leading to my room, an unforeseen incident transpired. In the profound darkness of my uncle's countryside abode, the last house on the block adjacent to an open field, with scarce streetlights illuminating the surroundings, I fumbled my way to pull a string tied to the ceiling fan and illuminate the room. As I groped in the dark, an inexplicable and ominous entity materialized. This dark apparition approached, forcibly pushing me out of my room. Strangely, during this encounter, my left eye lost visibility. It felt non-human, with limbs and hands that defied the characteristics of a human. Instead, it felt larger, akin to animal paws, but devoid of nails and claws. As it pushed me, I sensed its passage through me. When the ordeal ceased, I found myself inexplicably outside my room, in front of the bathroom door, the distance covered from where the ceiling fan was to my new location was around 8 feet. Shocked and bewildered, I grappled with the impossibility of the event. The lingering questions filled my mind. What just happened? What kind of entity was this? Reflecting on this unnerving encounter, I considered various possibilities. It remains one of the strangest incidents etched in my memory. As I delved into the history of the house, I discovered that a woman had lived there until old age. However, the details were scant, leaving me to ponder the nature of the inexplicable being I had encountered. If anyone has insights into the type of being I encountered, I welcome your thoughts. Despite research into the house's previous occupants, I found little beyond the elderly woman's residency. This enigmatic episode remains an unsolved mystery, lingering as a testament to the eerie occurrences within my uncle's house. Alright, let's dive into this chilling tale. Almost a year ago, during Christmas, I found myself at my dad's house, surrounded by some siblings. After the festive celebrations and a hearty dinner, my dad left for his girlfriend's apartment. Left behind in the house were my uncle, my 16-year-old older brother, and me, a 15-year-old, with the youngest being a mere toddler. The morning after Christmas, I woke up early, nestled on the floor beside an outlet, engrossed in my tablet. Everyone else remained in blissful slumber, until an abrupt disturbance shattered the tranquility. Relentless banging on the back door. Initially, I assumed it was my dad returning. But as the banging persisted and intensified, dissociation set in. Uncertain and paralyzed, I grappled with the surreal situation. The banging reached an alarming crescendo, culminating in the shattering of the back door. A surge of panic overwhelmed me. Paranoid thoughts of potential home invasions, fueled by the city's sketchy reputation, raced through my mind. Instinctively, I picked up a nearby flashlight, preparing for the unknown intruder. As the back door succumbed to the relentless assault, I heard the intruder navigating the lower floor, stomping up the stairs, and then pausing right outside the door to the room where I sat. The door swung open, revealing a man clad entirely in black, adorned with a ski mask. In his grip, a menacing crowbar with a blue handle, towering over me. He turned left and then right, locking eyes with me, seated on the floor, merely 3 feet away. My breath caught in my throat as I unleashed a scream louder than I thought possible, holding it for what felt like an eternity. In response, the intruder emitted a startled scream of his own, hastily retreating downstairs and fleeing the house. Stunned and disoriented, I ascended the staircase, shouting, "Please leave," a futile plea, considering he was already making his exit, having broken in. Waking my uncle and older brother, I hastily recounted the harrowing encounter, all while scrambling to put on pants. Descending to the lower level, my uncle, armed with a knife, instructed me to do the same. After confirming the intruder's departure and ensuring the toddler's safety, my uncle urged me to guard the broken back door, armed with the knife, while he inspected the surroundings. The tension in the air was palpable as I stood vigilant, realizing my vulnerability. My lack of combat experience and the stark reality of being a child holding a kitchen knife underscored my helplessness. Miraculously, the intruder didn't return, and when my dad eventually arrived, we communicated the shocking events via my tablet. As we waited for my dad, discussions unveiled the calculated nature of the break-in. The intruder, targeting valuable possessions, skillfully bypassed Christmas presents, an alcohol collection, and even gaming consoles. The invasion appeared meticulously planned, suggesting familiarity with the house layout. Speculations arose that the culprit could be someone acquainted with my dad, possibly a friend who had been inside before. Upon my dad's return, an anxious interrogation ensued. Attempting to identify the intruder, describing the assailant repeatedly, I emphasized the immediate physical danger I had faced. Despite the unnerving encounter, the decision to refrain from involving the unhelpful local police remained. As Christmas approaches again, anxiety looms, haunted by the fear of a potential repeat. Sleepless nights and heightened paranoia have become my unwelcome companions. Grateful for escaping physical harm, I harbor a deep disdain for the intruder who violated the sanctity of our home, leaving us with nothing more than a broken back door. Motive: this transpired right before my 16th birthday. I required a visit to the Department of Motor Vehicles for a photo session for my ID, since the imminent 18th birthday loomed in a couple of years. For those acquainted with such establishments, you are aware of the time-consuming nature of these visits. Thus, I was not enthusiastic about the impending trip, particularly considering the DMV's location in a notorious and crime-ridden neighborhood. Regrettably, that was the closest DMV. When the moment arrived for me to embark on the journey, the wait proved excruciatingly dull. As anticipated, however, approximately an hour after my arrival, an announcement echoed through the speakers, summoning the staff to a meeting room. Uncertain of the developments, we waited until their return a few minutes later, declaring the closure of the facility. Despite this, those in line were permitted to persist in their wait. Unaware of the cause for this abrupt closure, my curiosity was swiftly appeased when my mother informed me of overhearing a janitor conversing with a lady about a shooting that transpired around the corner. Concluding my business, we exited the premises, only to discover that the shooting had unfolded merely 2 stores away. My mother's vehicle, enveloped in crime scene tape, bore witness to the proximity of the incident. Outside the store where the shooting occurred, a vigilant cop noticed me, clad in a black jacket with the hood up. It's essential to note that the day was characterized by intense cold and rain, rendering the attire a pragmatic choice rather than an attempt to appear affiliating with any gang. The cop, harboring suspicions, inquired about my presence in the area. Given the inherent corruption in our city's police force, my mother intervened, clarifying that I was at the DMV for a photo ID. She had to furnish evidence to dispel any notions of deceit. Grateful for her presence, as it served as a corroborating alibi, I shudder at the recollection of the incident. Subsequent visits to the same DMV invoke a numbing anxiety within me, a lesson well learned. Refrain from strolling in questionable neighborhoods donning a black jacket with a hood, regardless of the weather. Even now, every return to that particular DMV triggers a wave of anxiety, a stark reminder of that ominous day. The lesson engraved in my memory is crystal clear: avoid wandering through dubious neighborhoods, especially in a black jacket with a hood, no matter the weather. The incident underscored the unsettling reality of the world around us, where a routine trip to the DMV could unexpectedly entangle you in the aftermath of a nearby shooting. The encounter with the suspicious cop emphasized the importance of having someone to vouch for you in moments of uncertainty. My mother's swift intervention was a saving grace, averting potential complications. As the years have passed, the memory has not faded, serving as a cautionary tale that echoes every time I find myself reluctantly stepping into that ominous DMV. Allow me to recount a perplexing incident. In my relatively recent abode, approximately a year or 2 ago, my family and I relocated to our current dwelling. Having inhabited the area for a year before, our prior residence led to eviction due to the owners reclaiming the property. I am a young female, residing with my family, adding an unsettling layer to this already bizarre tale. Gazing out of my window reveals a view of our fence, followed by a neighboring house. The initial encounter with this mysterious individual occurred late at night. Amidst a gathering of friends, our parents were away at a party. Deeming us old enough to stay home alone, engaged in responsible leisure, we lounged in my room, devoid of light or music, having turned off the TV. In solitude, we heard the persistent barking of my dogs for a prolonged 10 minutes. Dismissing this as typical canine behavior, we soon detected stranger sounds crunching, circling the perimeter of my room and scratching on the walls. As unease settled in, the quietude shattered with the loudest bangs I've ever heard assaulting my glass sliding door. Startled, the 3 others and I rushed out to investigate the source of such commotion. An aggressive dog pounded on the door, accompanied by a man dressed entirely in black. Alarmed, my own dog, typically fearless, cowered behind me with fur bristling. The man, expressionless, responded to our inquiries with a simple "I don't know" before departing with his leashed canine. Upon our parents' return, we shared the strange encounter but refrained from contacting them during their absence, not wanting to spoil my mom's birthday celebration. 2 days later, my mom approached our neighbor, who was tending to the lawn. He admitted to being the man with the dog. claiming it had accidentally entered our gate. He asserted his intention to discuss the matter earlier but failed to do so. A nagging suspicion lingered in my mind as I reflected on that night. The gate the dog allegedly breached had a sturdy clasp that was securely fastened. While it could be opened by hand, the man's explanation seemed dubious. I surmise he heard the cessation of music and noticed the absence of lights, prompting him to intrude with unclear motives. The peculiar noises we heard likely stemmed from his circumnavigation around my room before attempting entry. Despite filing a police report, the situation remained dormant for a few months. Then, one night, as I settled into bed, nearly drifting into slumber, I witnessed a face outside my window. The figure wore a black face covering, prompting an immediate text to my mom. She investigated, finding nothing amiss. This was not a mere figment of my imagination, as the neighboring lights were visible through the curtain's crack, albeit obscured by the face covering. Since that disconcerting night, I've sensed a persistent presence observing us, leaving me uncertain of what actions to take. Ever since that disconcerting night, the unease has lingered, casting a shadow over the tranquility of our home. The unsettling feeling of being observed has become a constant companion, a chilling reminder of the enigmatic individual who has woven himself into the fabric of our daily lives. I grapple with uncertainty, unsure of the stranger's motives and haunted by the possibility of further intrusions. The face shrouded in darkness, staring back at me through the window, remains etched in my memory, a silent specter that refuses to fade away. Despite filing a police report, the mystery persists, leaving me with a sense of vulnerability and an unsettling awareness of the precarious nature of our security. The boundaries of our home, once a sanctuary, now feel fragile, susceptible to the whims of this unknown entity. As the days pass, I find myself constantly on edge, questioning every creak and rustle, wondering if it's merely the wind or a prelude to another unwelcome visit. The feeling of being watched intensifies, casting a pall over the once familiar surroundings. In this unsettling chapter of my life, I grapple with the dilemma of whether to confront the lurking presence or continue existing in this state of perpetual apprehension. The conclusion to this eerie tale remains elusive, and the specter of the unknown continues to cast its shadow over my every step. When I was 17, I toiled at Pizza Haven as a delivery person. My dwelling rested in the heart of a desolate region in Kansas, and all the neighboring towns were situated a solid 10 to 15 miles distant from each other. I had secured employment at Pizza Haven due to their desperate need for staff, and I found myself in need of a fresh occupation. The remuneration wasn't particularly appealing, but being still in the midst of high school, the pay wasn't a significant concern. This eerie episode unfolded at the inception of 2022. The establishment I worked for mandated deliveries within a 25-mile radius of practice that, in hindsight, appears utterly preposterous. Considering the norm is usually within a 5 to 10-mile range from the store, given that ours was the sole Pizza Haven in the vicinity, our delivery responsibilities were more extensive. Among 3 drivers, I perpetually found myself on the schedule, enduring protracted shifts that included closing hours. These closing shifts required me to remain at the establishment, taking on the responsibility of all late-night deliveries, a task I detested, not necessarily due to fear, but because it was a tedious endeavor, and more often than not, late-night deliveries yielded paltry tips. This unsettling incident transpired on a frigid Thursday night, when I found myself as the sole driver on duty. Only the cook and my manager lingered in the establishment. The night had been exceptionally languid, and with school looming the next day, I ardently hoped my manager would release me early. Alas, it was 10 p.m., and I hadn't embarked on a delivery for over an hour. I was idling without purpose, unable to use my phone, just as I contemplated requesting an early departure. The ringing phone extinguished any such aspiration. I refrained from answering the call, as I couldn't summon the enthusiasm to adopt the fox cheeriness required for customer service. My manager fielded the call, and after an interminable 15-minute wait, the order was ready. Eager to conclude the task promptly, I navigated the route at a velocity surpassing the legal limit. The address was unfamiliar, leading me to forsake paved roads for gravel ones. Negotiating turns, I arrived at a dilapidated trailer home. No vehicles were in sight, and no lights emanated from within. Initially, I pondered whether this could be an elaborate prank call. My manager advised me to investigate. Despite my skepticism, inquiring about the caller's age, she couldn't discern, given the low and nearly unintelligible tone in which they spoke. Convinced it was a futile endeavor, I decided to contact the customer directly using the number from the receipt. My call went unanswered, intensifying my irritation. Disembarking from the car, I traversed toward the trailer, utilizing my phone's flash to navigate the cloudy, cold night. Muttering disdain for the customer, I halted upon suspecting extraneous footsteps. Heightened awareness set in. Being a slender figure at 6 feet 3 inches, but weighing a mere 140 pounds, I realized my vulnerability to potential robbery. Lacking any means of defense, I vociferated, "Is anyone out there? I have your pizza." Silence ensued as I approached the door, knocking and announcing my pizza delivery status. No response echoed. Given the cash payment and a substantial $45 worth of food, abandoning the delivery wasn't an option. Knocking louder yielded no response, only fast steps emanating from the vicinity. I reiterated, "I have your pizza." Shining my flashlight towards the sounds revealed a chilling spectacle. A man donned in a stained apron and a sinister baby mask charging at me. Startled, I swung the bag containing the soda. Connecting with his head, he crumpled, soda spilling, as he attempted to rise. A swift kick to the stomach sent him sprawling. Seizing the pizza boxes, I slammed them onto his head, making a dash for my car. Locking the doors upon entry proved fortuitous, as the assailant reached my door, attempting to force it open and punching my window. Igniting the ignition in reverse, I evaded further assault. Reaching a speed of 80, I contacted my manager to narrate the incident. Her reluctance to involve the police was disregarded, as I dialed 911. Upon returning to Pizza Haven, 2 cops awaited. Discarding my employment, I learned they had investigated the trailer uninhabited. They displayed a shattered Android phone, the source of the call. Desiring further action, I inquired about fingerprints. Returning home, I recounted the night's terror to my parents, despite staying home from school the next day. The police's silence persisted, leaving me in the dark about the man's sinister motives. This remains the most spine-chilling encounter in my life. Unsure if the man intended mere robbery or harbored more malevolent intentions.